Hey, hi guys. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about the imperfect past in Spanish. This is part 2. So let's start. All right, guys. So when are we going to use the imperfect past? Okay. Let's see case 1. We have to use the imperfect past when we are talking about past actions that were repeated with certain frequency in the past. Okay, let's see some examples so you will understand this better. Okay, so we have this sentence: my mom prepared coffee every morning. My mom, mi mamá, my mom, mi mamá, prepared, preparaba. Okay, this is our verb in the imperfect past. Preparaba, okay, coffee, café, every morning, todas las mañanas. Okay, as you can see, we're talking about an action that our mom did in the past every morning. Okay, so we're going to use our verb in the imperfect past. Let's see another example with another sentence. Okay, we have this sentence: Peter often visited his parents. Okay, which means in Spanish, Pedro, often, which means a menudo, okay, in Spanish, often, a menudo, we're talking about frequency in the past. Pedro a menudo visited, visitaba, okay, here's our verb in the imperfect past, visitaba his grandparents, a sus abuelos. Okay, so this is another sentence in the imperfect past. Peter often visited his parents. Pedro a menudo visitaba a sus abuelos. Okay? Now we have another sentence. I always failed math. Okay? Same, we're talking about frequency. In this case, we're talking about always, okay? In the past, I always failed math, okay? How to say this in Spanish? Yo, always, siempre, failed. Here's our verb in the imperfect past. Reprobaba, aba, it's finishing with aba, okay? Math, matemáticas. I always failed math. The meaning is, yo siempre reprobaba matemáticas, okay? Here we have another sentence. My sister rarely went to parties, okay? This means, in Spanish, mi hermana, my sister, rarely, raramente, went, this is our verb in the imperfect past, iba to parties, a fiestas, okay? So to say, my sister rarely went to parties, in Spanish you have to say, mi hermana raramente iba a fiestas, okay? Case number 2, we're going to use the imperfect past with these phrases, okay? When you're saying, when I was little, which means in Spanish, cuando yo era pequeño, pequeño if you're talking about a male, pequeña if you're talking about a female, okay? Cuando yo era pequeño, cuando yo era pequeña, okay, means when I was little. Case number 1, phrase number 1, okay? Phrase number 2, when I was young, okay? Or when I was younger, okay? Which means cuando yo era joven. Cuando yo era joven, okay? And case number 3, when I was a teenager. Cuando yo era adolescente, teenager, okay? When I was a teenager. Cuando yo era adolescente, okay? So let's see some examples with these phrases. so you will understand this, okay, better. So we have this sentence. When I was a teenager, I smoked a lot, okay, which means cuando yo era adolescente, when I was a teenager, okay, cuando yo era adolescente, I smoked, okay, verb in the imperfect past, fumaba a lot, mucho, okay? When I was a teenager, I smoked a lot. Cuando yo era adolescente, fumaba mucho. Now let's see another phrase, sentence. When I was young, I drank a lot of coffee, which means cuando yo era joven, when I was young, cuando yo era joven, I drank, verb in the imperfect past, tomaba, okay? I drank, tomaba a lot of coffee, mucho café, okay? When I was young, I drank a lot of coffee. Cuando yo era joven, tomaba mucho café. All right, so now let's see case number 3. When you have this phrase, I remember that, which means yo recuerdo que, yo recuerdo que, I remembered that, okay? Let's see some examples with this phrase, okay? So if you have this, I remember you painted very pretty. Yo recuerdo que, okay, which means I remembered that, okay? Yo recuerdo que you painted, okay, this is a verb in the imperfect past. Pintabas, okay, abas means that you're talking about the personal pronoun you, okay? Yo recuerdo que pintabas. I remember that you painted very pretty, muy bonito. Okay, this will be our phrase in the imperfect past. Here we have another example. I remember that we played video games a lot. Okay? The meaning in Spanish is yo recuerdo que, I remember that, yo recuerdo que we played, jugábamos, okay? Remember in Spanish we don't have to put the personal pronoun always, okay? If you are talking about amos, jugábamos means you're talking about the personal pronoun we, even if you are not looking at the personal pronoun itself, okay? Like in written. I remember that, yo recuerdo que we played, jugábamos video games a lot. Jugábamos mucho videojuegos, okay? Yo recuerdo que jugábamos mucho videojuegos. I remember that we played video games a lot. Case number 4, okay? Also, with these words, when you see these words, means that you have to use the imperfect past in your sentence, okay? If you have the word before, okay, you're talking about the past. So if you have this word before, means that you have to put your verb in the imperfect past, okay? Also, if you're talking about this phrase, at that time, which means en esa época, at that time, en esa época. Also, if you are using in my time, which means en mi época, in my time, okay? And finally, if you're talking about in those years, which means en esos años, in those years, en esos años, okay? So if you have this type of expressions, means that you have to use the imperfect past, okay? Let's see some examples with some sentences. All right, here I have this sentence. Before which means antes. Before, okay, we played, jugábamos. Okay, remember, if you're talking about amos at the end, you're talking about the personal pronoun, we, okay? Jugábamos. Before, we played, antes, jugábamos, more in the park, más en el parque. Okay, so if you want to say, before we played more in the park, in Spanish you have to say, antes jugábamos más en el parque. Okay, antes, before, we played, jugábamos more, más, in the park, en el parque. Let's go to this sentence. In my time, which means en mi época, in my time, we were more respectful. Éramos más respetuosos. Okay? In my time, en mi época, we were, verb in the imperfect past, éramos, we're talking about we, éramos more respectful, más, more, respectful, respetuosos. Here we have another sentence. At that time, en esa época, at that time, I had, yo tenía, verb in the imperfect past, you're talking about the personal pronoun I, yo tenía more, más, hair, cabello, okay? So to say, at that time I had more hair, in Spanish you have to say, en esa época yo tenía más cabello, okay, in the imperfect past. Now we have this sentence. In those years, which means en esos años, in those years, en esos años, I was, verb in the imperfect past, yo estaba, I was, in college, en la universidad. Okay, so to say, in those years, I was in college, you have to say in Spanish, en esos años, yo estaba en la universidad. Case number 5, in which you have to use the imperfect past, okay? When you are describing routines you did in the past, okay? To describe routines we did in the past. Here we have some examples. So if you want to say, in junior high school, en la secu, you can say secundaria, that means junior high school, or simply like a contraction, secu, en la secu, in junior high school, I took the bus, yo tomaba, I took, verb in the imperfect past, the bus, el camión, with, con, my best friend, mi mejor amiga, Karen. Okay, so if you want to say, in junior high school, I took the bus with my best friend Karen. In Spanish, you have to say, en la secu, okay, in junior high school, I took the bus, yo tomaba el camión with my best friend, con mi mejor amiga, Karen. Okay? Now with this sentence, if you want to say, when I was little, my mom prepared me breakfast. To say this, in Spanish you have to say, de pequeño, which means when I was little, de pequeño, when I was little, my mom, mi mamá, prepared me, me preparaba, okay, verb in the imperfect past, breakfast, el desayuno, okay? De pequeño, mi mamá me preparaba el desayuno. When I was little, de pequeño, my mom prepared me, mi mamá me preparaba breakfast, el desayuno. Now, case number 6, okay? You have to use the imperfect past to describe places you visited in the past, okay? To describe places we visited in the past. Let's see some examples. All right, so let's see this example, okay, in which we are describing a place, okay? In this case, we're describing the Eiffel Tower, okay? We're going to say that it looked spectacular. So if you want to say the Eiffel Tower looked spectacular, to say this, in Spanish you have to say La Torre Eiffel, La Torre Eiffel, okay, the Eiffel Tower looked, se veía, looked, se veía, okay, spectacular, espectacular. Okay, so to say the Eiffel Tower looked spectacular, you have to say La Torre Eiffel se veía espectacular in Spanish. We have another sentence. That beach, esa playa, that beach was, verb in the imperfect past, estaba incredible, increíble. Okay, you're describing a place you visited in the past, and that place was the beach, and it looked incredible, okay? So to say this, remember you have to say that beach, esa playa, that beach was, estaba, okay, incredible, increíble. Now let's see case number 7, okay? We have to use the imperfect past to indicate simultaneity between two actions, okay? Let's see some examples so you will understand this, okay? So here we have this sentence. Ana drove, Ana manejaba, Ana drove, Ana manejaba, and Susan shouted, y Susana gritaba. Okay, so you gotta check the verbs in the imperfect past are manejaba, okay, drove, and shouted, gritaba. Okay, so again, to say Ana drove and Susan shouted, you have to say in Spanish, Ana manejaba y Susana gritaba. Okay, Ana drove and Susan shouted. All right, so here we have another sentence. Oscar and Alex played the guitar, okay, and Susan sang. Okay, to say this, in Spanish you have to say Oscar y Alex, Oscar and Alex, played, verb in the imperfect past, tocaban, played, the guitar, la guitarra, okay, the guitar, la guitarra, and y Susana, sang, cantaba, okay, this is a verb in the imperfect past. Again, if you want to say Oscar and Alex played the guitar and Susan sang, to say this you have to say Oscar y Alex tocaban la guitarra, Oscar and Alex played the guitar, and Susan sang, y Susana cantaba. Okay, this will be your sentence using the imperfect past. Two simultaneous actions in the past, okay? All right, now let's see case number 8, in which we have to use the imperfect past, okay? we're going to use it when we want to talk about a past action that was in progress when other action interrupted, okay? Let's see some examples so you will understand it. Here we have this sentence, okay? In English, we say, I was asleep when you woke me up, okay? I was asleep when you woke me up. To say this in Spanish, you have to say, yo dormía, okay? This would be the imperfect past. Yo dormía, I was asleep, when, cuando, you woke me up. Tú, you, woke me up. Me despertaste, okay? Again, yo dormía cuando tú me despertaste. I was asleep when you woke me up. Also, you can change position and you can say, when I was asleep, you woke me up, okay? This means in Spanish, cuando yo dormía, when I was asleep, you woke me up. Tú me despertaste, okay? Cuando yo dormía, tú me despertaste. Now we have this sentence, okay? In this sentence, we have, while we ate, it rained, okay? This means mientras, which means while, mientras, we ate, comíamos, it rained, llovió, okay? Again, to say while we ate, it rained, you have to say, mientras comíamos, llovió. While we ate, it rained. Also, you can change position and you can say this, okay? It rained, llovió, while, mientras, we ate, comíamos. Llovió mientras comíamos, okay? It rained while we ate. All right, guys, that would be all for today's lesson. I really hope it helped you, and I will talk about some conjugations of verbs using the imperfect past in next lesson, okay? So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!